In 44 years, a fantastic author is going to write a book. And halfway through the first and second acts, he's going to talk about churches, and he's going to talk about temples, and he's going to talk about different places. It's perfectly simple. In other countries, over the years, people recognized the places of power. Sometimes it would be a natural formation. Sometimes it would be a place that was somehow special. They knew that something important was happening here, that there was some focusing point, some channel, some window to the capital I immanent. And so they would build temples or cathedrals or erect stone circles, and, well, you get the idea. I don't know if Neil Gaiman was talking about a little hospital tucked away in a corner of Las Vegas in the mid-50s. But he might have been. For this is a place of power. It is a place of terror. It is a place of very, very bad things. And there are 3 people here, and for the first time in their very brutal, strange lives, they're dealing with something supernatural that isn't about them. This is something else. This is just a terrible place that's just been terribling along all by itself without any Van Horst input. So before we find out if the doctor's going to get here today, Van Horsts, how do you feel about that? Every other terrible thing that has interacted with you has been you've been the Axis Mundi, and now you're not. So what's that feel like?
I feel like we were drawn here. It's still kind of about us. We were set up for a trap in the desert. This was the closest place we could go, and we found a supernaturally awful place. So I still think it's about us. It's just a trap for us because we're that important.
I mean, just because they didn't know about us before doesn't mean they weren't making it for us.
It means that we need to expand what our plans are and expand our power base, because if it wasn't about us before, it needs to be about us now.
Oh my god, that's so perfect. All right.
Ooh, Van Horst.
Van Horst, narcissism family.
If it's not about us yet, it's going to be about us soon.
We're here now, so it must be.
I learned it from you, Dad.
Yeah, you really did, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, it is evening, it is morning. We managed to avoid most major horrors in the one night that Matthew spent under the care of Dr. Salazari. And let us remember some of the things we've seen. The sisters have found a stairway labeled basement with steps that went up.
Mm-hmm.
And a strong sense of passing into another space on those steps. Matthew was given Chemical X, to use the radio drama language of the time, and found his slumbering surgeried self somewhere else, somewhere where someone claimed they needed his help, Mr. Alex Hawthorne. But Matthew wasn't quite ready to commit. I think maybe that might be something that needs to percolate a little more. And let's not forget the orderly, who really, really wanted to get its hands on Bethany. But I do have terrible news. It's morning. It is a new day. And so let's see how we're all doing. Bethany, let's see how our schizophrenia is. Clara, let's find out about the heroin troubles of the day.
Fine. Oh, natural 20. I'm great.
Nice.
Nice.
Double damage. All right.
Double
Immediately
damage.
beheaded. Move on.
Yeah.
Matthew, I think that we can safely say that you're going to experience nightmares.
Yeah. That's kind of a not if but when situation right here. I am curious, how am I still exhibiting the signs of infirm? Because I have been under stress.
You have been under stress, but from the way we've discussed it, that it's something that functions akin to a flare up.
Yeah.
And that that you're going to have a burst of infirmity, and then it's going to fade away based off its sources, its multiple sources, and the way it works on you. So you are not currently haunted by the ghosts of your measles.
My allergic reaction has gone away.
Yes. How lovely
great
for you.
For that. Okay, that sounds good.
Bethany, how many cars are on the crazy train?
I rolled a 10, but I'm at -3 to disadvantage rolls, so that's a 7.
Yeah, okay.
But I also rolled her Sixth Sense, and that came up at an 18. So super aware of all the bad.
Yeah, and everything else, the real stuff and the fake stuff.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
right.
We're in some hypervigilance time. Sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds actually. And here's the problem yet again: Bethany's behavior seems almost appropriate. All right, Clara. Do you even take a hit this morning? Like you're kind of rock solid right now.
Yeah, probably not. And I'm guessing she's running fairly low and knows that this is a dangerous place. Once her wits about her, has been using a bit more than she normally does. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to try to take a day off. Get through this sober. If I really need some more, I'll drink something or have a few cigarettes. But no, she doesn't.
Okay.
Going to try to go without this morning.
Okay. Well, as long as you don't throw up or shit yourself or puke up worms, you should be okay.
Fine.
It's fine. Everything is fine. Sobriety is great.
Yeah, it's fine.
Matthew, your night was... This was not your greatest... This was not the best hospital sleep ever. This is not... This is not Frodo waking up in Rivendell, all rested in a beautiful bed packed with silks. There is no Gandalf here to tell you what day it is. It was a uncomfortable, writhing, tossing, turning sleep, dropping in and out of nightmares. Very clearly, the anesthetic dream that you had stayed with you. And so there are a few moments where the room you're in has that glutinous, dripping quality. But as you roll back over and maybe wake up again or finish waking up or go back to sleep, it's back to normal. So now the sun is up and the room is normal, so it looks like the real world might be the real world so far.
The first thing that he looks for is if his sisters are still in the room with him.
I think they are. Did you guys... I think that was actually a question we had for last time based off of whether or not people would make it to game. But you're here, so yes, they are. It took some shenanigans. It took, frankly, a bribe. It took some conversations. But yes, you did get to stay in the room tonight. There is an orderly who is several crisp $10 bills richer.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a nurse who has a letter of recommendation so fantastic that it practically actually glows to the University of Pittsburgh's medical center. Specifically the Van Horst wing. Still under construction, but they'll need more nurses soon. to a little bit of friends in high places, a little bit of straight up money, and some dirty looks. And yes, you don't think you'd be able to pull it off twice.
Yeah.
But tonight, you're all right.
And how bad is my current pain situation? Like, how's this going right here?
Well, it's going pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's you are stable. Generally, there was nothing entirely necessary that was hit. You know, for example, your bowels weren't nicked, which would of course immediately necessitate an extremely long stay and a tooth and claw fight for life. So you are sore, you are tired, you were, cut open, you were mended, you were put back together, and while your body was doing that, your mind was in a rotting hellscape. So you didn't even get a good day's sleep out of it. As long as you avoid significant physical traumas, you should be okay.
Okay.
Like you would hate every step of it, and if any sort of complication strikes, you might hurt yourself again. But conceivably, your sisters could get you out the back door. It would be misery from start to finish, and you would probably need to generate some kind of medical attention on the other end. But if it came to it,
if worse comes to worse.
Yeah, I mean, most of the trauma at that point would be emotional. So, yay. But one of the nurses comes in for the morning checkup, and she. It is clear that she is deliberately ignoring the two sisters, not in a snub, but in a, if I pretend not to see them, I don't have to deal with the fact that they're here. And so clearly this nurse is just, they're here. Apparently they were allowed to be here. I'm not going to make a deal out of it. This is above my pay grade. I don't even have the right number of commas in the pay grade appropriate for this. So she is focused on Matthew. I mean, for better or for worse, she's focused on Matthew and his care. So you're getting checked and temperatured and all of the various morning rituals of being in a hospital in 1957, which involves a lot less beeping. So that's nice. I mean, there is less beeping in the room. There are also less sensors. So, take it or leave it. What's your mood right now, Matthew? Or what's the mood of the family as you all wake up in uncomfortable chairs and an uncomfortable bed and a hospital hiding some sort of nightmare hellscape?
I would say that for Matthew, it's a combination of feeling very frustrated at his own physical limitations and kind of a desire to figure out how to how he can use this sort of situation to his advantage in any way. Like basically, how can I gain something from a loss is a thing that he's always thinking about and was always hammered into him.
How can I turn it?
And especially in a situation where he feels so helpless, it's like that desire to be able to find a way to deal with things. And then he's like, also, ow.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to twist this? Oh, fuck.
Don't even think the word twist. Yeah. Clara, go.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
She's exhausted and overprotective and starting to get very tired of having to be the responsible one and frustrated at the entire world because she has other things she wants to do. She really wants to go talk to the cop that brought us here. and investigate other things, but she's not going to leave either of them alone in this place.
Fair.
And she doesn't have her drugs, and she's not going to take them because it's going to be a better day. She's going to sit here and be a sober, responsible adult.
On purpose?
Yeah. She hates that. She loves both of them, and she is taking over a matriarch position very firmly and strongly in this moment, and putting on her best professional smiling, has been cooing and wooing the nurses to get us the best care face, and is always keeping close to Bethany, not letting a nurse get between her and Bethany, or a doctor, always keeping that gentle shield up. And that's where she is.
Okay. Bethany, how do you feel? By the way, the walls are breathing.
I mean, this is already her least favorite place in the entire universe.
Yeah.
Like, hospitals in general, bad. This hospital wants her to stay and keep her crazy to eat her. Bad. The walls are breathing. Bad. Definitely in hypervigilance about movement and sound, and looks way too jumpy, and Claire's probably said she's had too much coffee already, because she is slightly too close and slightly too wide-eyed and slightly too obviously overwhelmed.
Okay. Have you, as a player, ever walked on loose tile that's also wet? That kind of crackly sound. That's the sound that the floor is making, but only for Bethany. It's got that
Oh, I hate it. It's like when all your joints pop.
Yeah. It's got that, like, I don't know, like a mosaic made out of like bugs. Like that's it's
Yeah. Great.
There's a distinct, like, is Bethany wearing heels? Or is she in something closer to a flat?
Bethany's probably never in more than a kitten heel in her life anyway. But it depends on whether or not in between the staying with Matthew, they got to actually like shower and change clothes from their crime clothes.
We can say that there was.
Because then yes, she's in an appropriate, like, no more than 3/4 inch kitten heel, because that's what matches this dress.
Okay. You are entirely certain that if you wore something closer to a stiletto, maybe not a stiletto, but a tall heel with the narrow tapering, that a too firm of a step would crack the floor and you would sink into whatever is almost audibly oozing up. Whatever's, like, the tile's fine, but whatever the tile is glued to is not okay. And there's almost a sense that if you stepped too hard with too small of a surface area, that it would crack. So that's great.
Super great.
The nurse seems fairly content, Matthew, with your state of being.
At least one of us is.
You get the I know you're tired, I know you're cranky, I know that you wish you could sleep in your own bed, you probably want a half a dozen eggs and a pound of bacon and 2 cups of coffee and everything else, and we'll get you as many components of that desire as the doctor says we can get you.
Great.
But it's that extremely kind, extremely professional, kind of like, I have heard all of your woes, I empathize with your woes, and as soon as the doctor tells me which ones I'm allowed to repair, I will do everything I can. But nice, smooth, efficient, not a chatterbox, but not the sneering battle axe nurse trope. Thankfully, that nurse hasn't. You saw her walking down the hall, but she hasn't stuck her nose in yet.
Well, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, no, she's not great.
She basically is going to say, whatever. He doesn't lie at any point regarding how he feels or his current health situation, but he does say phrase things in the best possible way for him being more healthy as possible. So it's like, it's not that he's not saying like, yes, it hurts here or something like that, but he's probably like giving a lower pain level scale on a lot of things. And he's probably forcing himself to do just a tiny bit more movement than he's actually should probably be doing, and trying to hide that he's doing so because he wants fucking out.
Yes, absolutely. And your doctor, do we remember that doctor's name? Did we ever name that doctor? Or
the ones in Pittsburgh? I don't know if we named him last time in season 1.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Well, how about by the time he gets here, we think of one?
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
So he's probably, if the plane is on time and everything goes according to plan, David went to go get him because David's going to be able to handle that. And why not have a driver if not to drive people around, right? So we're expecting him about mid-morning. So is there anything in the next handful of hours, let's say 3 hours, that you guys want to do? There was some investigative stuff that was cut a little short. Is that something that we want to follow up on now, or are we just laying low until the doctor gets here?
The question that I would have is, I'm not sure whether or not you guys told me about the weird stairs, the ones that go up. And I don't want to assume that that's told to me.
I'm going to agree that I don't think that conversation was had.
I don't
so
think
this
that
would be a
happened.
great time to have it.
So if you guys want to have that conversation, but I don't want that to be a thing where you feel like you have to tell me, because you can just not. And that's totally legit.
No, I think once the nurse is gone, and Clara absolutely feels that we're alone, it's worth having the conversation.
Because I also feel like last game I think Clara did find out that the guy that Matthew asked us to find out was here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we had that conversation yet either.
I don't think so.
We did.
Yeah, I think it was more like we got back and we got to stay here, and you were probably passed out on lots of drugs. So let's catch up Matthew on all the things.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's so there's a hospital breakfast for Matthew of depressingly bland values. Some more reasonable food was dropped off for the 2 uninjured siblings. It's nothing particularly fantastic, but it is adequate to sustain the meat machines. So, and you guys are given some time to yourselves.
Clara first, once the nurse is gone, kind of goes over to Matthew and kisses him gently and just squeezes his hand and goes, "How are you feeling?"
And he'll clasp her hand back and say, "Better than yesterday." That's not saying much.
I know.
But it's somewhere. Not having the flare-up issue anymore. Things are slightly more movable. I feel like I could probably walk very slowly.
Dr. Nolte should get here in 2 or 3 hours, according to the last we heard. So we're just going to chin up and stick it out until he is here, and hopefully we can get you out of here, because this place doesn't feel great. Does it still feel that way, Bethany?
I mean, the walls are breathing, but that might just be me. So the stairs were real bad, though. They were actual bad. That the basement was not good.
The basement?
Oh, apparently this was a psych ward. In the Times, that's how it started of a thing. So we're in the hospital built on a mental hospital, so that's great for me. And downstairs is like other place downstairs, but upstairs, because down was up in the basement door, but we didn't go through the door this time, because that's good. Because we have trouble when we go through basement doors and end up other places.
I'm glad that you did.
I'd still like to look into it, but I think she is right. This isn't just, it's not just in your head, Bethany. There's something very wrong with this place. And that door absolutely felt like the door to Inferno that was in our basement.
I don't think that you noticed that going down was going up, but we were.
No, I didn't notice that. I just know it felt wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This uncomfortably points towards the possibility that my dream was correct and that they put something in me when I was under.
Mm-hmm.
And your friend, or the person you met in your dream, is here. He apparently has a long-term illness and they've been quarantining him. And so it will be very difficult to get to see him. It will not be something they willingly let us do.
All right. Finding out more about this place and what it might try to do to us or me is something that we have to weigh, I suppose, with the possibility of the longer that we stay here, the more likely it is that they will successfully do something to us.
Upon consideration, the threat level does seem to be extremely high.
Yeah. Bethany, can you see if there's something still in me?
I will certainly try to. So I am going to use magical intuition to see if Matthew is magic in the way that Matthew is not normally magic in the way that I know my brother.
See if Matthew is Matthew flavored?
Yes. Okay. 9 is 12, and that's a plus 16.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right. So you get 3 options, 2 of which you can keep in your back pocket.
Yes.
And remember, this is the one that works a little bit like the Carillion camera. So we're looking at auras and resonances and things like that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to look at Matthew's aura and see if there's a non-Matthew flavored and much more weird desert madness flavored thing floating about in those colors. Which I guess is learning if something has a magical nature, but I'm looking for a specific type of magical nature.
No, I get it. It's what you're looking for differences.
Yes, I'm looking.
I mean, it's a compare and contrast situation.
Yeah.
There is an accumulation. Mm-hmm. It is not in Matthew as much as it's on Matthew. It feels like being here and maybe having the experience that Matthew described. He's got some schmutz on him. It's not, it's not in him, but you can definitely see almost like, how would we describe it? Like pollen.
Uh-huh.
Like the thick, dusty pollen that floats through the air and just tells you that your nose is going to run from looking at it. It feels like, yeah. And it just, even though it's even though it's natural, we all know that it's not natural, and it just kind of it's gross. And then there's a little color out of space vibe to those days as the trees all have the dust float off them. It's that there's a pollen or a dust or a spore. Jesus, is it a spore? There's some sort of
thing.
Yeah.
So instinctively and instinctually, and in a possibly bad, untrained way, Bethany's going to attempt to magically brush some of that off him, because she'd want to clean her brother off gently, but she don't know what she's doing.
Yeah, it's not like the last time you did this, you like made chaos mouths or anything.
Just want to get some of that schmutz.
Fine, it's fine.
Like, it's so an unthinking gesture. It's that like, oh, you've got something on your face, I'll just rub that off. That's wrong. Like,
well, you know, Bethany knows just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know, it's,
yeah.
You know, she knows how to make plastic explosives, but she's never seen the measurements. But she knows what's in the pot. So let's just roll a straight 2d10, unmodified by anything, and let's just see what kind of a result this bad plan gets us.
Okay, well, unmodified by anything, it's a 7.
I just want to say that I'm sorry to Clara, because I am holding your hand during all this. I'm sorry if you get anything, because there's no way he's letting go.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Until Bethany has the meltdown I'm about to give her the nightmare fuel for, this all seems perfectly fine. Bethany's giving you a hard look, a weird kind of deep spacey look, and she reaches out and kind of does some sort of brushing around or through Matthew, and this is all within tolerances, except for the part, Bethany, where as you put your hand through it, you feel little pricks in your fingers, like the beginning of sunburn. When it hasn't gone from full surface damage, and it's just when your nerves are starting to sing, that little individual twinging of nerve endings, and it's in your fingers, and there is a fat bloating sensation. It's in your fingers, and there's something underneath your skin, and it has crawled into you. And you are not at all certain if this is a crazy moment or if you are experiencing a piece of torn illusion, but there are deep subterranean fungus and lichen and mushrooms, and they're in the bones and skin of your hand, and they're eating your meat, and they're going to explode out. Let's see. Can you keep it together right now?
Find out.
I guess the real question is your freak out destructive or not?
Let's find that part out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me keep it together. No, where are my moves? Okay, so
plus willpower.
It's plus willpower.
Minus 7,000 probably in traditional Bethany standards.
Minus 2 to keep it together. But I have willpower of plus 2. So it's just the straight roll, which is a 10.
All right.
So not the worst.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the good news is that you manage to hold on to enough of your ragged, wet doily of a sanity to identify the fact that this sensation is psychic somatic.
Okay.
And is a manifestation of the idea of what's going on. This is a visualization as opposed to a real thing.
Okay.
And that's like, it's a bad trip, but it's still a trip.
Yeah. Yeah, will not actually manifest mushroom fingers. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's this look like on the outside?
She has stepped away from Matthew and is looking horrified both at him and at her hands, and is standing very still, like if she touches anyone, she'll infect them with it.
Oh, that old song, huh?
Yeah, I'll just be right here.
Meanwhile, as Clara sees that, especially since she's kind of backed up, Clara still keeps Matthew's hand in the other, but reaches out for Bethany's hand with her hand in the attempt to be like, no, touch me, it's real, everything's fine, here's my hand, here's my heat. Like, she's trying to touch and center and ground Bethany. She doesn't know what Bethany's seeing, but knows that it's bad.
I don't want to get it on you.
Hey, there's nothing here.
No, there is. It's maybe not real here, but it's here, and it was on Matthew, and it's kind of still on Matthew, and now it's kind of in me, and at least it's not really gonna eat me from the inside out and grow mushrooms on my bones while I'm still alive, but it's here, and I don't want to get it on you.
I'm touching Matthew already.
I was about to say the same thing.
But not from this or here or me.
Bethany, we're in this together anyway.
Yep.
And he'll also extend a hand so that
Yeah.
she has one from Clara and one from him.
Yeah, unless she physically pulls back, Clara's gonna grab her hand. Be like, we're together.
There's not in you, Matthew, but was on you, but is in me now. It's in me.
We'll find a way to get it out and off. We've done harder things before.
Really? I don't know.
We're gonna get out of here. As soon as the doctor gets here, we can figure out where to get Matthew transferred to. We can just get out. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Matthew, I know that you promised to help that man. And if you
I
want
promise
to,
try.
yes, maybe I can come back, we can sneak in or something, but I don't think that staying in this place is smart.
I agree with you completely. I think that eventually I do want to get him out, but this isn't something that I believe we can just walk in and grab him for. It would take actual planning, and one can't exactly plan when one is in the middle of danger like this at this time.
I don't want to leave either of you alone in this place, and right now I'm the one capable of going and maybe sneaking off and doing these things.
One thing that I think that you're right in that leaving us alone at this time when I can't protect Bethany as well as I would normally be able to is not a good idea. But before anything having to do with Mr. Hawthorne, I know that we need to deal with that call. And quite frankly, I think that that's going to be something that is a priority.
I have plans. I just don't want to. I don't want to go away for hours or a day and leave you both in a dangerous position where I will not be accessible.
I know. And I appreciate it.
Okay. 2 things, siblings. 1, all of you regain 2 stability.
Okay.
From the small ritual of grounding that you shared. Clara's sober. Matthew is humble and
So hard.
Yes, and Bethany accepted being grounded. Like that was a moment where kind of things were very raw and open and supportive, and so gain a little bit of stability back. So that happens, and then in the middle of this conversation, a 1, 2, 3 rap on the door, and it is so fucking hard, but it's not like the back of the knuckle, and it's not the hand. It is absolutely like one knuckle on the glass of the door, and it's percussive. And it is the head nurse, the queen bitch herself. Yes. Her name is Allison Damon, or Nurse Damon. And she comes in, and she has a little tray. It's about, this big, and there's some little paper cups on it. And there is a glass of water.
Great.
Clara and Matthew almost certainly notice. Bethany might. It's a lowball glass.
Oh, yeah.
This glass absolutely came out of somebody's liquor cabinet. This is...
Does it have me some liquor?
Well, unless it's vodka, no, because it's clear.
A tragedy.
A crime against God and man. Water in the morning.
Lowball glass, though. Like,
false hope is a theme.
Nurse Damon, is that from my brother?
Yes, it is. And she's got like 3 little cups, and there's like 2 little pills in each, and there's little, they look like pills. I mean, they're pilly.
Speaking of pills that look like pills, I am now going to use magical intuition because I don't trust the shit they ask me to put in my body in this place.
Legit. A reasonable response. So let's see.
Where are my... Okay.
That's plus soul.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just checking because my dice seem to have fallen somewhere in the bed, but it's okay because I have an extra.
While Matthew rolls this, Bethany, the mushrooms under your hand have started to bloom. Thankfully, they don't hurt, and you have kind of managed to jam this down into going, okay, this is a vision, this is an episode, this is not real. But you do see that all the mushrooms have these little, like, cute little stems that grow up a little, and they have, like, this very classic little gnomish button top. Like, a little bit brown on top and, like, a little bit of white around the edge.
Yeah.
They're super cute. Like, if you drew a watercolor of a cute mushroom that, like, a little, like, fairy frog lived under, this would be that mushroom. It's cute if it was growing out of someone else's hand. How'd you do, Matthew?
I got with the minuses that I have from the critical wound, I got an 11. So
it's more
middle
than
of the road there.
So you get 2 options.
Yeah. Just looking at the what the options are.
Learn about a creature, learn about a thing, or learn where the illusion is weakest.
Well, learn about a thing is going to be like the thing that he's trying to figure out. Like he's wanting to he's probably going to do actually both in this case, where one of them is going to be for the pills, and the other one is the nurse herself, as I used it on the doctor prior, but not on the nurse.
No, you did not.
And so it's helpful to know who is this sort of shenanigans and who is just following protocols.
Yes.
So I think it would be both, the pills and that.
Yeah, Among Us, Vintage Edition.
Basically, who's sus?
Well, short answer, every fucking thing you're not related to.
As usual.
The pills radiate a weird transformative not transcendent, a property that would transport you. There are journey vibes to it. It seems like yes. It if you imagine them as a physical object, you could imagine that this is a scraper where it peels you off of something and leaves you to float.
Yay. Okay.
But it's very low powered. So it seems
yeah, but I don't know how it interacts with whatever the fuck is on me right now that Bethany saw. A+ there. What does the nurse look like?
a hot fucking mess, brah. The nurse. Okay, first of all, the nurse has no eyes. You're fairly certain she has no eyes. You're not entirely convinced that she has no eyes because you can't see her eyes because she has a bloody cloth around her eyes. And she is wearing not a lot. It's very in the kind of Greco-Roman, like, single piece of cloth that is wrapped. You know, it's many cultures do it. But probably what comes to mind is something in the classical world sense of vibe. And the mushrooms are growing. There are mushrooms growing out of her skin, but they're not infected. Like, she doesn't look to be ravaged by them. They look to be, you know, just around, man.
Cool. So Matthew's hand tightens slightly around Clara's, and he does his very best to, you know, give the appearance of like, I have to take pills, but this is like basically to behave the same way that he was with the other nurse, which is like, I guess I'm going to have to do this stuff that it's not necessarily pleasant, because he doesn't want to basically appear as if he's like a chipper, happy to be here patient, because he hasn't been being like that to other nurses. And so that's not, like, that would be weird in itself.
Yes.
And he's absolutely going to try to tongue those medications because he's pretty sure that she's not going to let him just like set them aside.
Well, Clara's going to squeeze Matthew's hand and be like, I'm going to talk to the nurse about how last night went. Just take your pills. I'll be back in a minute. And stands up and tries to be like, Nurse Damon, can we talk in the corner a minute? I just don't want to let him take his pills. My sister will stay. I want to talk about how the night went. And it's trying to get the nurse to turn around and talk to her.
Okay. So your hope is that she puts the pills down for Matthew to take.
Yes.
And then you distract her
enough, yeah.
Long enough for Matthew
to walk away.
Whatever the hell movie that was, where he throws the liquor over his shoulder
Yep.
and slams the glass back down.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've done it more than once, but you know. Mm-hmm. So Bethany, Matthew looks like he's seen something, and apparently that something then subsequently shit in his pants.
Okay.
Based off the very brief face journey. So and Clara immediately hops up to intercept the nurse, and so yes, the nurse puts the pills down with the bottle of water, brings over probably one of those little like a little breakfast tray, maybe something on wheels, sets it down, and tells you, take each container by itself with one big swallow of water in between.
Absolutely.
You do not want the Heimlich maneuver with all those stitches in your belly. And it's a firm, but this is probably as close to a joke as she's like. She had to find the joke and dust it off and like hit it with WD-40 and shine it up so that she could use it. But I mean, she did use that one joke that she has on you. So, yay. Clara, so she says that, and then you take her over to the side. So what can I help you with?
I think you know that our personal family doctor from UPMC is going to be here, I think within an hour or two.
I am aware.
I know that your institution is frankly the best anywhere near this coast. I've been doing the research and I don't want to ruffle feathers, but it's our family doctor. He's who I trust. I just want to see how we can do this as smoothly as possible with respect to you and your staff.
Oh, let me tell you, if every person in America could fly their own doctor out to the hospital that they're stuck at when they're out of town, they would. You're not doing anything wrong. If I was in a hospital in Pittsburgh, I guarantee you that I would call Dr. Salazari.
Of course, I'm glad you understand. I'm just trying to make certain we're doing this as smoothly as possible, and I respect your work, Nurse Damon. So
we are
understanding.
We are professionals, and we have professional pride, and we always like to think that the doctor that we support and we ourselves are the best in the world, but there's really nothing wrong with bringing a little bit more best in the world here.
It's a good way to make networking connections, if nothing else.
UPMC is very famous. Let's see how this conversation goes, Erica.
Yep.
Let's see if you can influence other, because essentially you are trying to get her to not do her professional job, which is pay attention to the patient.
All right. I rolled a 12, but I think influence our others charisma.
It do be.
15 then.
All right.
Nice.
Yes, you managed to manipulate the conversation and apply enough value to the conversation, talking about other doctors and networking, that as a head nurse, she is very aware of the power of a social network and the power of shaking babies and kissing hands. So you snag her. You snag her for like a solid minute and a half. So Matthew, what happens with the pills? I mean, do they go?
Well, now he's super not putting them in his mouth if he doesn't have to. I mean, he will likely try to, like, he'll do the thing where, like, he picks it up and he'll put it in his hand and he'll put down the cup. So, like, the noises are correct for him taking them. And then is probably just, like, straight up, like, putting them, like, in, like, the crease of his, like, knee for now.
Okay.
Because he's going to need to, like, he doesn't want to put them in his, like, in a place that has mucous membranes right now because he doesn't know what they're coated with.
Yeah, that's legit. Like, normally you could very easily just stick a pain pill under your tongue and go to the bathroom and spit it out in 5 minutes with nothing but a bad taste.
Clara's purse is on the bedside table.
Oh, yeah. Then put them straight up in the purse.
Purse is there, and Bethany is really nearby, ready to hold his hand if that is the other option.
I think that probably the easiest method would be if Bethany is holding his hand for him to pass them to her, and then she can put them in a purse.
Yeah.
But he's going to basically, like, he's going to make all the correct sounds for when he does that. The water, did it seem wonky, or did the water seem normal?
The water seemed normal.
Okay, then I will drink the water.
Yeah, all of the weird was absolutely in one of the 3 cups.
Cool. I
don't fault you for trusting 0% of the medicine right now. But
he's probably going to be in a fuck ton of pain because he's
gonna happen.
Yeah, but, like, worst case scenario, you can always make eyes at Clara. About fair play, I guess.
Clara, I need to borrow your heroin. This stuff we fight about all the time. Yes. Do you have any extra?
Oh,
a bit.
Yeah.
So he's going to try to do that as convincingly as possible, sound-wise.
Well, you have 2 things supporting you. You have the fact that you are sitting next to your sister, and there is no one who is a better co-conspirator than a sibling. And so, and I would be willing to bet that Bethany's palmed a few pills. There's been some skipped medicine in Bethany's life, and I imagine that between Matthew and Bethany, the pills managed to disappear anywhere but near Matthew's mouth. And of course Clara's got Nurse Damon locked in, good eye contact, all that good neurotypical conversation stuff, eye contact, full face engagement. They're talking about things, and Clara has mastered the art of making her words turn green. Like Matthew can move the money. Matthew is in charge of the money. He has access to the mechanisms of authority. But in many ways, Clara is the avatar of that power in social circumstances. She is not proxy.
Well, I remember in season 1 we were realizing that we had started having the archetypes of King, Herald, and Vizier, and like the voice, like the person who is like the immediate voice, and the person who is like able to do that social clout is always been Clara, because she's baller at it.
Yeah. And it works. Thank God. It hasn't worked a couple of times, and that's just been the worst. But tonight it works. Today, this morning. My God, it's morning. This morning it works. And it was a quick conversation, and clearly Nurse Damon has other rounds to go on. And now with kind of the knowledge that she is other, the inquisitive, like head tilted back inspecting you thing that a nurse would normally, like, have you taken your medicine? It's a little menacing. There's a minor chord that plays when she does it now. It's not particularly fantastic. Matthew, you don't know what she expects those pills to be doing to you, but you have a fairly solid sense that she expects it to be happening soon.
So, from my understanding from the pills, they all seemed like they seemed to be something that kind of were mind-opening-esque sort of drugs.
Yeah.
In some way.
But so did the anesthesia, and that was not happy fun times.
Yeah, it was super not. Matthew was going to basically lie back after he takes his pills.
Okay.
And like, because he can't like immediately, like, he doesn't know what it's going to cause, but it probably will cause at least some disorientation.
Okay. That sounds about right. So, you guys managed to avoid the nurse encounter. At least it didn't devolve into combat, which is good.
But once she's gone, Bethany's gonna look at Matthew and be like, "What did you see?"
That wasn't human.
Okay.
It felt like she had a bloodied cloth across her eyes. It's like when I had seen when things started cracking on Sophia and the others. It's
Jacob.
Like when Jacob was angry, the way that there was human over, but it wasn't real. It almost felt like it's the doctor had this too. It's almost like they were priests of this thing, this sort of other place, but it didn't feel like the one that was in the basement. It didn't feel like ours.
Right.
It's something. She had fungus growing on her.
Like these. Bethany shows him her hand that looks real normal.
Yep. I don't see any on you, but
it's from where I brushed at you.
Oh, I see. Well, that's...
There are these little funguses growing. They're like mushrooms in my hand. It's probably not actually real. I mean, real, but I see them.
It's certainly something that is at least about this place. I don't know what those pills would have done, but they weren't normal. That I can see. I think that they would have opened me to something similar as the anesthesia. I'm not sure.
You don't want to let this place eat you.
It really wants to eat us.
It does.
Getting out is priority.
Consume us and grow out from our bones.
That is a way to put it, yes. He will look over at Clara and say, thank you.
Of course. I saw where you were looking. I know you.
I know.
Love you.
I love you too. We will get out of here. Just need a couple more hours. We can get the doctor, get him to transfer me. And we can deal with this place on our own time then without this much vulnerability.
Probably for the best, yes.
Mm-hmm.
If they will let you out.
The horror of this hospital seems to be revealing itself relatively quickly. And this is the horror of being able to see things as they truly are, is that you very often see things as they truly are. And the harsh reality is that this is a bad place. It's a bad planet. It's a bad illusion. It's a bad lie. And you do not know what happened to that dreamer that you met, Mr. Hawthorne. You do not know what he is undergoing. You do not know what he's undergone. He said he had been given hundreds of surgeries. And Matthew, to leave Las Vegas behind, to conclude your business here, and to leave Mr. Hawthorne to the tender mercies of this hospital and whatever's going on in it, to willingly leave someone in a place like this, that would be something that would affect you as a person. That would be a critical personality defining decision. And something that you will want to consider.
He certainly doesn't intend to leave him, but he can't. This is sort of a put your own oxygen mask on before you can help someone with theirs. There's not a lot that he can do to get Mr. Hawthorne out when he is also trapped.
I am not
such a level of powerlessness.
I'm absolutely not disagreeing with you, dude, and which is why the timetable I said was leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah.
This isn't a video game where it's like, once you leave the hospital, you will not be able to come back. Have you found all of your collectibles? That's not it. If you get on a plane and fly home and leave this city behind you, knowing that you left a man in this weird temple mushroom hellscape to be endlessly vivisected, that says a lot about who Matthew is as a person, and that's going to shape him as he essentially defines himself.
The thing that I think is interesting is whether, because I don't know the answer yet,
and that's fine.
The answer to I think I know the answer to whether or not he will leave Mr. Hawthorne, which is at this moment, it seems like he would be the type of person who would try to get him out eventually, but with like planning.
Yeah.
What I'm curious about, and I don't know, I legitimately don't know, is if he's going to want to get out the other people who are probably suffering similar things in this hospital that he does not have a personal interaction with. Because that's a lot harder for me to know of whether or not like Matthew has gotten to the point of ethics where like people who he doesn't personally interact with are real. and like, no, because so much of
the question of the fucking year.
Yeah, right? Like that sort of idea of like, can you empathize and care about people that aren't in front of you? In front of your face immediately, and that goes back I think a lot to our season, like some of our stuff in season 1 where like there was the possibility of him having a path where like he was writing off like basically the murders and blood debts of, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people, cities of people for power, and he rejected that at the time, but like who knows what will happen with all of this. And so I do think that it's a really interesting aspect, and I have no idea where he'll go from that.
I don't either. I just wanted to let you know that it might bite you on the butt.
Oh yeah.
And to let you know that at least there is a butt biting dog in the room. and how you deal with it is up to you. There is a sound down the hallway of more than one set of footsteps. And these are not the softer shoes of the nurses, because let's recall that this is the era of uniforms top to bottom. And these are the hard-soled shoes of men. And the clicking, the click clack of doctors' dress shoes, and the conversation, and you hear Dr. Salazari's melodious tone, and then the voice of Dr. Nolte, the family doctor, seems to be here, and the conversation sounds a little animated, maybe even possibly almost argumentative. What does Dr. Nolte sound like? What are they like as a person? Are they whisperer? Are they a mumbler? Do they clearly enunciate?
I feel like he clearly enunciates. He's very, very forward, Pittsburgh Italian, upper class, knows exactly what he's doing. Carmine Nolte had been an old friend of the family's kind of when we were growing up, and went on to do bigger, better things, especially with UPMC research. And that's why when Izzy was in hospital the first time, we called on Dr. Nolte. We knew that he was a surgeon. We knew that he was fantastic. And we went, we want you. We trust you. You understand the family history. And then when Clara was in hospital, it was absolutely, we want Dr. Nolte. He is as bossy and possessive as we are. We know he's incredibly competent. He's proven himself, and we've known him for our entire lives.
Matthew, is Dr. Nolte one of the doctors that worked with you when you had your measles?
As he was a surgeon, he wasn't like the head of it, but he's a family doctor all the same. Like he's you know, the fact that he specializes in, you know, emergency, you know, things, it may be that, you know, he kind of has dual chops in internal medicine as well, which would make sense. Like he's no infectious disease doctor, but like he certainly was a part of it, and he certainly was, you know, one of the people who was trying to see if it was possible to save Matthew. And the fact that Matthew recovered, though it had literally nothing to do with the treatment that the doctor gave him, let me just tell you that was a notch in his belt, because it totally was because of the treatment that he gave him.
Yeah. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Say, doctor, your medicine didn't work. My dad stole part of my soul to an insane angel. Yeah, that's
100%. Like that was through his there's an aspect, I think, for a lot of surgeons. No offense to surgeons, but there's an aspect of like God complex that can come from like I literally give life and hold life or death in my hands. And I feel like, especially with how he was just described right there, yes, he's got it. Like there's that need for that to be recognized with the skill that he has.
Interesting how the Van Horsts seem to emanate a very particular kind of gravitational pull. Flawed competence seems to be the thing that seems to accrete around the family. Yes, so I think we could say that the extremely professional, extremely moderately toned conversation that's happening in the hallway would absolutely, without a doubt, be a bloody, molar loosening brawl, were this level of aggression to be shown in a more blue collar environment with a dusty behind the shop area with which to resolve. And Dr. Nolte is a man of patterns. Things that he does, he has ways of doing things. And usually those ways are good, but also then they're immediately recognizable. You remember that when Izzy, the fourth sibling, who is hiding and helping some very important ladies recover themselves, when she was in the hospital after Bethany accidentally transported exactly 12.5% of her to Metropolis, he has a knock. It's 1, 2, 3. 2 knocks, pause, knock. That's Dr. Nolte's knock. And you remember it because in the very quiet hospital, you could hear it on the other side of the floor as it echoed, knock, 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 hello? Knock, 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 hello? Knock, 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 hello? And this time, knock, 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 hello? And it is a piece of home. The way he opens the door, the amount that he opens the door, he puts his face not against the door, but he puts his face in the part of the door that's currently open and doesn't look in the room. This is his "Are you decent?" So, Matthew, your doctor is here.
Oh my God, the look of relief on his face. Dr. Nolte, please come in.
And he doesn't throw the door open, but it opens quickly and completely. It is probably the first time that you three have seen him actually angry. You have seen him extremely worried, extremely concerned, extremely upset that you have been hurt, but not actually angry. And it's only on his face for just a brief moment. It's just kind of like he opens the door, he sees people he knows, and that connection of decades gives him a moment of unplanned for vulnerability. And that vulnerability manifests on his face as that kind of like, I'm going to kill this son of a bitch. But he just says it with his eyebrows. That's it. It doesn't make it below his nose or above his first forehead wrinkle. But by God, if he could put razor blades in those eyebrows, it would be a real different room. And he comes in, Matthew, tell me what kind of terrible you feel right now.
I exhausted and aching at this point, but it's good to see you.
Can we he is coming over, and as we have the conversation, he is with his firm no concerns for your privacy, no concerns for your comfort. Giving you a kind of a generalized inspection. Says, yes, it's very good to see you too. However, I would like for 1958 that we stick to the Christmas party.
I will endeavor to do my very best. Matthew is much more cooperative than he has been with any other nurse or doctor on like allowing him to examine him. Obviously there's decency and modesty. There are women in the room.
Oh yeah, he doesn't throw the hospital gown over your head, but
he is being more helpful in more forthcoming than he has been with the nurses or doctors prior.
Yes. And Dr. Salazari, who has come into the room and is kind of standing next to the door, he's in the position of, I'm in the room where another medical professional is working. He's like right next to the door with his back, not touching the wall, but next to the wall. So he's there, and he is also concealing a lot of emotional energy. You don't know him enough to know what he's concealing, but there's a lot going on underneath his deep running still waters. However, Dr. Nolte, yeah. So you are manhandled. you are checked. He says he says what is probably personal commentary. He would have done a different stitch here. He would have done this differently. He agreed with that. He apparently picks up a conversation with Dr. Salazari, and they have a extremely terse, extremely jargon-laden, staccato conversation where Dr. Nolte is asking him questions about different lot of otomies and asties and ectomies and all of kind of all of those medical verbs that are apparently discussing the various and sundry ways by which Dr. Salazari has addressed your collection of puncture wounds. And no signs of bowel trauma. Some of them make sense. Heart, lungs, liver, like no, yes, no, that kind of. Excuse me. That kind of almost unparsable to anyone but a member of the clergy, who is invested in the deepest secrets of the ancient arts. But Van Horsts, you know what two people who have to get along professionally look like, and these two are getting along professionally, and these two doctors wouldn't offer the other doctor a cigarette while they were both standing in front of a firing squad. There is no romance budding here. So Dr. Nolte turns to you, Matthew, and says, how do you feel?
Not as well as I would want to. I'm in a great deal of pain right now.
Yeah, you are.
There's something that I'd like to speak with you in private about.
Of course. And he turns to Salazari, and you can hear you can hear the razor strop noise of his voice, and he says, "Doctor, if you'll give us the room, please. I consider patient confidentiality extremely important. I'm sure you understand. Thank you." Dr. Salazari doesn't handle it well, but he is trapped by the laws of propriety, and he says, I'm sure we will be discussing whatever we need to once you have finished your examination.
Dr. Salazari, now that Dr. Nolte is here, why don't you and I step out into the hall so we can talk about the donation that we were considering giving to this hospital anyway? Since you've taken such good care of my brother.
Sure. And that's a mild salve, but clearly he is clearly upset. So Clara is going to take Dr. Salazari outside and once again do the fantastic job of baffle with bullshit. We should add that to like Clara's moves.
Letting her dress just slip.
Oh shit. Okay.
She's
Okay. Where's Bethany? Is Bethany taking an action or being a passive observer?
Bethany is a passive observer, still in the room with Matthew. She's at this point probably seated in a chair and doing her best not to stare at her hand.
Dr. Salazari is a weird, Dr. Nolte is a weird experience for Bethany.
Mm-hmm.
Because if anyone in Bethany's life was going to have her committed, it stood to be 75% chance that it would be Dr. Nolte.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is one of the family's most trusted doctors.
Yeah.
But conversely, he has also been nothing but kind and nothing but patient. There is a memory that you have of a completely unwanted doctor's visit to the home, and Bethany fully disassociated and had a full break from reality. And when she came back to it, Dr. Nolte was just standing there, not judgmental, just standing there, just kind of watching you, waiting for it to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Just, an extreme amount of patience. And you thought that would be it. It was one of those moments where you thought you were going, this was it. This is your last day as a free girl. And he simply looked at you and said, do you need me to repeat my question? And that was it. That was his entire response. He told you to get more sleep, but that was essentially it.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. It's the threat,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And comfortable dangers do have their seductive value.
Yep. He's slightly probably more dangerous now. I would imagine that because of how Papa Mal felt about things, his visits before were slightly more tend to the idea that Papa wouldn't let it happen, whether or not he recommended it.
Ooh.
But
yeah.
Now Papa's not here. But also he, because of what Papa said, always treated her that way. So he is again the danger that she knows, but the one that she is also slightly comfortable with the idea that he will listen to Matthew because he knows Matthew where no one else listens to Matthew. And like he listened to Papa. So there's that modicum of barrier of familial safety in interacting.
Here's hoping.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. So the door shuts, and let's handle the conversation with Matthew and Nolte first. So he says, the surgery looks fine. Why am I here?
I think I've been having an adverse reaction to some of whatever they used to put me under. I've been having disorientation. I've been feeling not especially well, and not in the same way that I've had in prior situations. I felt more comfortable having someone who knew, my history, being able to take care of me and let me get transferred to a place that actually had more understanding of what I've, had in the past.
Do you remember the name of what you were given that you think you had an adverse reaction to? Did they discuss any of the medicines that you were given? You say maybe it was it a painkiller?
Did they ever say the name?
They did. Yeah.
Okay.
It's long and it's a terrible salad of Greek and Latin, like so many other medical terms.
Matthew attempts to repeat it as best he can, which probably means that he mangles it partially. And will say they were going to remember vaguely that they were about to give me something else, and then switched over to this one.
As you say the words, he sticks his hands in his coat pocket, and he leans back, and he kind of sticks his hips forward in that very like, I'm going on a walk and I'm thinking, and I've just kind of stopped here on a street corner and I'm going to stare at the street lamp across the street and think about something. And he does that for a couple of moments and seems to come up blank. He says, that's going to have to be a question for Mr. Salazari. Because that's not the name of an anesthesia that I know, and it doesn't even sound like I wouldn't consider, presuming even if half of what you remembered was right, that doesn't sound like an anesthetic formulation. Silo, something, Adine, mumble.
That was what I was a little bit worried about. The fact that they switched things, it just seemed strange. And then when I started having, difficulty with being able to sleep or disorientation afterwards, I wanted to have a second opinion.
And I'm happy to give it to you. Now, I just want to be clear. I have no problem being here. I am not in any way, shape, or form put out by your request. I actually think that my car is still running in front of the airport, but we'll take care of it. Okay. But I have to say, at least from what I can see, the surgery was well performed.
That's good.
Everything that I can see looks to be up to par. It's about what I would expect. There are some technical differences, but it's a matter of taste, not quality. So I'm not gonna give him demerits, but Matt, this son of a bitch does not want anybody in here that ain't his people.
That seems worrying. Is that the norm for hospitals?
I've chased people out of my office with a shoe, but maybe I'm not the right person to be talking about whether or not I should be, I don't like people in my space. I don't like people in my stuff. And I understand that someone else might feel the same way, but this feels different. Feels like he's hiding something. Are you getting a sense like he's hiding something? Like, do you feel like there's something else going on?
It does feel strange. The way that they've behaved has been very secretive. They're not telling me what medications they're giving me. There's not really any communication to me as a patient about what's going on. And it just seems very... I'm not expecting transparency, but it certainly seems like they're not wanting me to know what's happening to my own body.
Well, there's a difference between not having transparency and painting over the damn windows.
Yes.
All right. Look, I'm going to go try to get your chart. I'm going to see what I can see. I'm going to see if I can find a history of medications. I'm going to get an answer on that anesthesia. You're not well enough to get home.
Can I get a transfer to a different hospital here?
I'm pretty certain we could make that happen. Why did you end up in this one? Was it just close? Was it suggested?
I think it was the closest one.
And what exactly the hell happened to you? Did you fall on half a farm's worth of equipment, or?
There was from what I understand, a mugging gone wrong. Very wrong. We may have been targets due to what happened a few years ago.
Matthew, give him the fucking money. You've got enough.
I think that it's taught me a lesson about my priorities for the future, yes.
As your doctor, I recommend that you make not getting stabbed the highest possible priority, second only to not getting shot.
I will put those on the list.
You do this again, and you do it under my knife, you're going to wake up with one of those doors from one of those old potbelly stoves in there. You've only got one sister without scars that I've had to take care of. All right, let's keep it 3 for 4, huh?
I'll do my best.
That's my boy. Smacks you on the shoulder, not hard, but does the masculine, the masculine emotive pat. Stands up and goes to the door. But let's see what the conversation happening out there is like. Clara, what's your goal? Are we just eating up time? Or is there a secondary objective?
Muted.
There we go. Sorry. The secondary objective is to get Dr. Salazari on my side, one way or another. I got Nurse Damon, but I kind of want to go up the ladder and Clara all of her feminine wiles and her money and attempts to do that. And make it easy that if we need to get Matthew out of here, maybe we can get permission to just slip him out the door, and a new wing of the hospital could be a bribe to do that.
Okay. Now bear in mind that a new wing of a hospital is a
lot of money.
Yeah.
A sizable donation, I would say, not a new wing. We did that in Pittsburgh, but
yeah,
a strong donation in their hospital, in this hospital's direction.
Yeah. Even Carnegie and Mellon had to get together to open a university. Don't go building hospitals across the country quite yet.
Yes, but probably 10 grand, easy.
1957? Yeah. I wouldn't even know, but I bet you it's not more than zero of the budget.
Yeah.
It's a huge amount. I feel like that goes fairly easily. Now, do you mention transferring Matthew at all? Did any of that come up, or are you just laying the groundwork?
She says that we came here because it was the closest and we were in an emergency situation, and you absolutely saved my brother's life, and I will be forever thankful to you and to this hospital. And I don't even have the words to express that, but we have some other friends out here, people we've known that we were going to come out and see in the first place. I don't want to insult you and your good work by getting Matthew out of here to a place where there's people we know, but we would like to probably get Matthew there, and it'll be up to Dr. Nolte, and that's purely because he's known all of us since we were young.
Clara, let's see if you can read this person.
Sure.
You're getting some complicated signals coming off of Dr. Salazari right now. That is...
Rolled a 10.
Okay, that's plus intuition.
All right, that's not going to get me anything else.
And I'm going to give you a +1. I mean, it doesn't change the stat now that we know it, but I'm going to give you a +1 because I think that you're fully expecting a higher than average level of duplicity from Dr. Salazari, and so you're being hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
To that. You could figure out how he feels right now. He's There is something about Matthew leaving that he loathes, and it generates not annoyance, but something akin to rage. It's an extremely weird. It's entirely under control. I mean, it's definitely something that he is controlling. His face is controlled, his body language is controlled, his voice is controlled. But Clara, you are an addict.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what somebody who's fucked up looks like when they are trying to keep their face on, when they are not getting their thing.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Matthew leaving this hospital gives Dr. Salazari the feeling that he is not getting to access his thing. And that is like, that is a multiple layer cake of bad.
Yeah, it's going to be a thing that's really hard to smooth over, even if I bodily throw myself at this doctor. If that's his thing, there's not going to be distracting.
Yeah, it may not actually be addiction in terms of like, he may not be craving a chemical, but the response is that visceral, like that incredibly dangerous mix of panic and rage, that the threat even of lack of access to your thing causes. I mean, Clara's done this dance.
Yeah.
I mean, you've put this face on. And definitely the conversation chills real hard right after you mentioned transferring Matthew. Clearly what Dr. Salazari thought was going to happen was that Dr. Nolte was going to come in, say that Dr. Salazari was a fantastic doctor, and to leave Matthew in his hands. That was what Dr. Salazari thought was going to happen. He didn't say it, but the way he has been not responding is very revelatory.
So Clara's going to try a thing, which when she sees that is, I know that once you've worked on a patient, you want to see him through to the end. I understand, and I'm sorry, but as I said, we'll take care of you, and we'll take care of your hospital. And if you have a night off and you want to go to dinner, when I can talk to you about how much money this hospital needs and what we should sign over to you, once he's settled in with our family friends, I'd be happy to go out with you. Just a dinner. Her test is it Matthew specifically, or is it any Van Horst sibling? Because I think we're all special. Does he just want one of us? Or is that not interesting to him? Which I don't think it will be, but that's...
He does not rise to the idea either.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Physiologically or emotionally. There's... but there's no arousal response at all. I mean, there's barely an interest response. He is a doctor. He is of a field where communication and networking is a critical part of that profession, and so he understands the value of a offer to network.
Yes.
And his response to it is the response of a professional going, you are offering to create professional networking with me, and I'm going to thank you for that and say yes, but it's clearly like, thank you for the networking offer.
Yeah.
He's not going, oh, well, do you like dancing? Or anything else. There's no ooh baby at all.
That's fine. That tells Clara what she needs to know, that it is specifically about Matthew.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah. So she keeps smiling and a little bit of the small talk and kind of looks him over and then looks down the hall. And before this conversation ends, I would like to use enhanced awareness.
Okay. You need to roll it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, 19.
Holy shit.
0 and 9. That's why I'm like, ooh.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, you betcha. So Okay, I'm gonna reread Enhanced Awareness. When you focus your senses at a location where the illusion is weak, which is sure as shit here.
Yeah.
On a success, you have visions about the place and may be able to speak to entities tied to it. You like sticking your whole head in, don't you?
That's the skill.
Yeah. I mean, you buys the ticket, you takes the ride. 15 plus, you can discern clear details regarding the location. All right, exposition time. My favorite part. Hold on to your butts. Clara, in your theatrical experience, there was no small amount of Shakespeare, I presume. Everyone that does the theater has Shakespeare. You are in some fucked up, crazy Delphic Oracle Three Witches shit. You are muted.
Yeah.
I know, I'm typing notes. So
okay.
Yeah.
This is a temple. This is a place of visions. This is a moldy cave where incense drifts down the halls. It is a place of religion. Maybe not religion, maybe a place of faith, of practicing ritual, of belief. It's not put down in form. It is not an organized religion. It does not have a series of text and proscriptions, but it is faith-based. And the reason that Salazari is so damn upset is because somehow Matthew has become bound up in the religious aspect of this, which is awful. But this is a place where people receive visions, and that's the purpose. And you are entirely certain this is not a metropolitan place. This is not a breach to the great city, and this doesn't feel like hell. It's not brimstony and full of torture. There's not that underlying anguish in every pore. This is some fucking weirdo place.
I look forward to dinner, Dr. Salazari. I'm incredibly curious about what you do here.
And Dr. Salazari, who is now in a matching set of clothing to the head nurse, with his eyes bandaged and a very simple kind of Greco-Roman wrap on, and mushrooms growing out of him, says, "I would be very pleased to show you more about what we do here. We are breaking new ground every day." And he kind of veers away from that and starts talking, back into hospitals and drug trials and all that. He kind of, there was that moment, and then he goes back to it. But in this moment, your vision is still, the holes are still poked in the illusion, and you can see him, and he's a human, but he's an affected human. Like, he doesn't look like a creature.
Before he dives back in, Claire tries to reach up for where she sees the soul wrapped on his shoulder, that specific area, and touch his shoulder, and just says, I'm so curious about your visions of the future here.
Ooh, that's ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
They go home.
Go big or go the fuck home.
We're here for a while, yo.
We wildin'. He You know what? I'm not entirely certain how he's going to respond, so how about you just give me a straight die roll? Like,
Okay.
that's a really ballsy move, and I'd like to add some randomness because this is one of those trousers of time moments.
5. 1 and a 4.
Okie dokie. He
Doing
looks
so well.
That's what you get.
We're just bad at straight rolls. Like,
You're back. Wow.
Maybe I should stop calling them straight rolls. Maybe.
Rolls, yeah.
This is why we keep failing them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, great. All right. Fantastic. Where's the little dog sipping coffee in the burning room meme? This is fine. He looks down at your hand and he sees you did something. It was entirely innocent. It is a normal thing that someone does, but where your fingers landed, it went right into the not the weave, but the way the cloth is laying. But not how his jacket should be laying. You put your fingers in the wrap that he has on, and he looks down at your hand, and even though you can't see his eyes, you can see something happen in his ocular orbits, but it's a little bit too squirmy. But there's a definite sense that he looks down and he looks up, and he says, I think that it would be very important for you to come to understand what it is exactly that we do here.
I agree. And she squeezes that shoulder and withdraws her hand.
Would you like me to show you?
Oh no.
At this moment, your doctor opens the door.
Save us.
I was like, no, Bethany's not there to know those things.
Okay, everyone take your blood pressure. So what's hysterical to me, at least, because I think weird things are funny, is that so what Dr. Nolte comes out to is you being very close to Dr. Salazari with your hand on his shoulder, and him kind of with like halfway through this like come with me gesture, and it looks maybe a little bit more suggestive or incorrectly suggestive than, you know, it's stripped of context. That seems a little smoochy. And so Dr. Nolte, when he says Dr. Salazari, it's the first two words that he says. There's a rebuke in there. So, Dr. Salazari, if we could please discuss the medications that my patient has been on in your office, I would greatly appreciate a few moments of your time, especially if you had any references available for them. And just, you can like you can hear the hissing and the spitting, and Dr. Salazari does not turn his head as quickly as you would like. Clara, if you were actually attempting to seduce this man, You think that maybe you would have pulled it off? Actually, don't you have a flaw where people you might make an impression on might become obsessed with you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Object of desire.
Object of desire. Well, let's see if that goes off in your face.
All right. 16. Actually, I don't understand how this flaw works.
Well, it is a flaw.
Yes.
Which means that the higher you roll, the better it is for you. That's how everything works.
Yes.
The higher you roll, the better it is for you. And the better in this circumstance, what is better for you is that the crazy oracle priest doctor mushroom psycho person does not become obsessed with showing Clara everything he knows.
Fair enough.
Just has a normal level of evangelical psychosis.
Yeah.
So that's
cool.
probably for the best.
Cool.
Okay. So the two doctors step aside and with rapiers and pistols at hips to go somewhere and discuss medication. And so leaving you three alone for a little bit.
Clara goes back into the room.
Yeah.
And adjusts herself and goes, this place is incredibly interesting, actually.
Yeah.
It is it's like being at the Oracle of Delphi. It's a temple to visions and prophetic dreams and future things.
That fits with the way that they've been using what they have to give nightmares and visions to people.
Salazari is absolutely some sort of priest. He's human, but he's touched by it. He was wearing some sort of like Roman-ish stole, and there were mushrooms on his hands.
Like
a nurse.
Says Bethany, showing off her hand again, because that's where she is currently about mushrooms.
So yes, what you're seeing is, we've all seen it now.
But they were on Matthew. That's what they're doing then, because I only have these because I touched where the smudgy stuff was on Matthew. So they're making everybody mushroomy.
Is it possible that, Clara, you would understand this more than I do, intense experiences, they're part of these ecstatic visions, yes? Would pain be something that culturally would have to do with that?
Culturally, yes. Pilgrimages aren't easy.
I'm thinking of...
They're hard.
I'm thinking of things like multiple surgeries that aren't necessary over and over to give someone constant trauma and visions.
Probably distinctly possible.
Right.
And Salazari is very angry at the thought that we might take you out of here. You are now a part of his religious practice. At least that's the feeling that I got.
With what they put in me already, our doctor didn't even know what it was. And he said that it was no kind of anesthetic that he's seen. So, even though I'm sure that I mangled the pronunciation horrifically, but he's getting my chart. He's going to try to find out what they actually gave me, but I'm not sure how accurate it will be. But this place, if it is, they are healing people. The surgery I gave was healing, but they are using them for this religion, like you found. The healing seems like it's a means to an end.
Well, remember, you weren't Matthew, you weren't flagged until you commented on the strange nature of your wounding.
Yeah.
So that
is interesting, yeah.
Yeah, this could be something where they're looking for external signs and portents to know when to bring someone inside this portion of what's going on.
It may be that they're looking specifically for people who have been able to see through or been touched by something outside of the illusion prior.
I wonder what happened to your friend then. To get him here.
I don't know.
The doctor offered to show me the truth of it. Or not directly, but close enough.
Does he know that you know?
I think he knows that I can see something. I touched his religious robe, not his jacket. He saw.
Matthew will reach out to hold her hand and presses it to his lips for a moment and just says, "Be careful. You are a target now."
Yep.
I don't have any of their drugs in my blood. The priority, I think, is still getting you out of here. I've laid the groundwork for us having a family friend at another hospital here.
All right. We'll keep to that story. I think that you're right in that we should absolutely follow up on this place once we're out. It's, I think, becoming more and more necessary. And at least we have an inn.
This might be awful to say. We could use allies.
Do you think that this is the kind of place that would ally with us?
Yeah. Potentially, yes. They understand that the lie is... They understand that we're not in this place. They aren't a Metropolis. Unless either of you saw something that felt like Metropolis. And they aren't of what was in our basement.
Hell, yeah.
They're of another city, another world. But there's a certain kinship in knowing that there are other things out there and seeing, and the power that that brings. We just have to do it on our terms, not with you laid up, drugged on their terms, against your will and awareness.
No, I'm not. I think that we need to have more information to know for sure, but you're right in the fact that there's, in the end, we don't know if they're neutral or against us or could be used for us. In the end, that's going to need more information and from a better position. Right now, my goal is to get us away from their power so that we can meet them on our power. Hopefully that will be soon. And he'll just squeeze her hand again.
Yeah.
Is just...
And she reaches her other hand out for Bethany and just kind of tries to gently pull her a little closer.
Bethany is a little bit distracted because Bethany hears something in the hallway.
Okay.
Bethany is hearing the sound of dragging, clinking chains.
Yeah, Bethany's the thought that has been happening in Bethany's head for this entire conversation is this place does not want to let you go. This place will not let you go. This place does not like to let you go. So I don't know how responsive she is to anyone currently, because that's where she is not crying about how it'll never let us leave. But that's where she is.
And remember, there was a monster orderly outside smoking, looking right at Bethany with a full set of crazy people chains, ready to slap someone in them.
Yeah, so Bethany's probably gently crying at this point, and maybe not terribly responsive to her siblings.
Clara really gently tries to pull her in closer, even if she's not responsive. Just come here. Just come sit down very gently on the bed next to Matthew.
Super biddable. Like, she's not frozen. She's just not here.
Matthew will give her a handkerchief, and like there's only so much that Matthew knows how to do with Lady T, but he is trying, and he puts his hand like on her back while Clara also comforts and tries his best.
Bethany?
Yes?
What's wrong?
It wants to keep us. It wants to keep me. It wants to keep Matthew. It probably wants to keep you too. We're never going to leave this place.
Can't hold us.
You're gonna go and you're gonna poke your nose back in, and it doesn't matter I know we need to understand, but it will swallow us. It wants to eat us whole and grow mushrooms from our bones. We are never going to leave this place. I can hear the chains. I can hear them in the hall.
We're gonna leave today. Hell or high water.
But
no matter what, we are leaving.
But we're coming back. We're not really gone. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I just be careful.
We will be.
We will be.
We won't come back without having plans in place and protections in place. It won't be sudden like this time. We'll know what we're doing.
It wants us, and it knows who we are now, and when we come back, it will want us more.
There will be so many places that want us, but they won't be able to keep us.
Don't let them keep us here.
We won't. We've fought our way out before.
We don't have Sophia now.
We have each other this time. And we have more ability than we have ever before.
Just be careful.
Always.
We will.
Okay. I trust you.
I love you, and we are going to get out of here. I promise. I promise.
Okay.
We didn't have the Sophia the night at the Royal Phoenix Society. Did that all on our own. And if you don't think that we won't paint this place with everybody's blood, should they dare try to keep you or him, you know that is wrong. Or me. We kill. Hopefully it won't be necessary, right, honey?
Okay.
Promise.
It's okay to be scared, but you're Van Horst. We can do this. All of us.
Okay, but we have to be careful.
We will.
It's hungry for us now. It knows us.
Anything that gets to know us gets hungry for us. We're Van Horsts. I'm not wrong. Don't worry, I've been practicing. Clara goes and grabs her purse that has her little gun in it. Put it in her lap. We'll be fine.
We'll protect each other and we'll watch each other's backs. We faced a setback, but it's something that we can overcome. We will always overcome what goes in our way. You know this. Deep down, you know this.
Let's get Matthew out of here.
Yes.
Step one.
There is a conversation that happens outside the door. You hear a voice that you do not recognize. And to everyone but Bethany, it just sounds like the deep voice of like a football player. You know, just kind of it is a low masculine voice that has all of the tonal indicators of I am big and strong. And this is a voice that is being used to project a certain thing. Bethany, you hear tiger-esque growls. Like you hear a predatory animal, big cat noises. And that voice says, I'm sorry, visiting hours have been closed early today. You're going to have to come back another time. And you then hear David, your driver. And he says, I will unzip you, you fucker, move. And there is a pause. And nothing else is said. And then David says, I'm going to go in the door. Am I going to go in the door dirty or clean? And nothing is said, but the jangling chains, Bethany, go a little bit further away. And there's a... If you imagine the sound of them doing a circle, like something pacing in a circle and settling, you can almost very clearly hear that. And then David walks in the door with a bit of like, that fucker, kind of like I just got cut off in traffic, sort of very normal tone. And he has a couple of brown bags in his hand because it's lunchtime and he brought lunch.
Aww. Get yourself someone who will bring you food and then threaten to unzip someone.
Yeah. I'm just really here for like Van Horst's immediate reaction to extreme violence on their behalf is like love and adoration. They're like, oh, you love me because you're going to murder people for me. Thank you.
That's how you know it's real.
It is.
Yeah. Species extinction is the 6th love language.
Yes.
Yeah.
He comes in and, you know, I brought lunch. That's like, yeah, so, you know, just yeah. You know. And he takes, you know, he's got a couple of sandwiches. He bought like 5 sandwiches. And so essentially what he did is he tried to get everything he's ever been sent for in a city that does not have the same gastronomic slice. Like these are different. There's different core ethnicities. The combination of immigration that created Las Vegas is very fucking different from the one that created Pittsburgh. The influences are different. I mean, everyone likes ham. Everyone likes ham and Swiss. You know, it is America, and you can get a lot of classic American food everywhere. So it's a series of sandwiches, and he hands them out, looks at Matthew, holds up like a sandwich wrapped in white paper, and that like, do I give you this? Yeah. Okay. He doesn't give a fuck what the doctor says. Matthew tells him what to do. And so the sandwiches are given out, and there's pickles wrapped up in the paper, and he's got a couple of like cold Coke bottles with the straws, and you've got to pop them with the old-fashioned top, and it's a very vintage hospital picnic. There is a little fly in the ointment, however, Bethany, you realize that you didn't hear him speak in human words until he opened the door and says he got lunch.
Hey. Then because that filters in, and I still have a couple of holds, and Bethany hasn't done this to their very nice driver before, gonna use one of those magical intuitions on our very nice David, because she hasn't, and she's still way in her hallucination psychosis land of like, what is happening? So it's she's so certain that he's a human, but I think that she does still need to know, like, it's a real toss-up between true nature and like magic of I think she's real convinced he's human, so she's gonna go with if there's any magic around him, because she's now gently concerned that maybe they're rubbing off on him.
Dear David, the far too young Korean war vet who saw enough shit that when Bethany was having a full schizophrenic meltdown, he was okay with riding that out. Like that level of trauma and mental injury was something that he's like, all right, this is not my first rodeo and you are not my biggest bull. Dear David, who has done so much for you in the last few years, does not seem to be a creature. He is not, for better or for worse, he's not an Osgul.
Yeah.
Although it would be nice to have one.
Would, but no, she didn't think he was. Yeah.
He seems to be a human, but he has, what do you call it? Do you call it a mandala, a sun disk, a halo? He has something about his head that is floating, and it is made of bullet casings and barbed wire and broken trench knives and labels of gas containers. And if you were asked what a saint of war, what the halo of a saint of war would look like, it would look like this.
Yeah.
But to refine and define, there are no medals. There are no angelic trumpets. There are no scrolls of honor. There's no heraldry. He has not been touched by honor. He has been touched by war. And his calmness and his control and his ability to handle things is because he has seen such things that everything that he has seen with the Van Horsts is as nothing. And he just, he looks just like a 25-year-old kid. He's infinitely young and he looks generally healthy, and he goes running and he mostly eats vegetables and lean proteins, and he's a good fucking bean. But
yeah.
But he's this close.
Love him.
He is this close to something.
Yeah.
And you could either protect him from that last inch, or you could push him right over.
that is a conversation to have with the siblings, because if we bring him in, he is all of our responsibility.
I like that that's the reason.
I mean,
that's the reason.
He's very good and has been very good, and it doesn't mean that he's unwilling to know the things. He would know them for us. But
no, it's true.
If we do this, then we need to do it as a unit, because he has been the protect for us in the, like, mortal realm of seeing, and if we bring him into here, we have to do the protect for him, because what he's seen is still not what we've seen.
Oh yeah, no, super valid.
So yeah, that's a sibling conversation to be had.
That's a fucking thing.
Yeah.
But now sandwiches.
Delicious sandwiches.
Delicious sandwiches.
Did you bring anything to put in the Coke, dear David? Flask?
Yeah.
It's been a very long night. A very long one.
And he looks at Matthew and he gives you the most, like, I don't want to say this to you face, but he says, I'm not putting it in your cup. I'm sorry. I don't
I at least have a cigarette.
I don't think the cigarettes will mix with the pills wrong and kill you.
Okay. That I'll have.
Yeah.
Matthew, if the pain is that bad, Clara looks in her purse to see if she has a dose left. I think she probably has one.
Okay.
If the pain is that bad, I can help.
I can manage so far, but I may ask you later.
I'll be here.
I know.
Save one for you.
I appreciate it.
It's a fucking thing, huh?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sandwiches are eaten. And David picks it up a solid 10 seconds before anyone else in the room does. But the thing that Bethany picks up at the same time is the sound of the chain starting to move.
Okay.
And however, Matthew and Clara, you hear a chair in the hallway like skid, like someone is getting up from it. If one of you goes to look, well, if Clara goes to look, she will see the same orderly that was standing outside smoking a cigarette. The one that freaked out Bethany already. He has been sitting at the end of the hall in the dark.
Great.
And the reason he stood up is because our two doctors are names tonight, hard. Dr. Nolte and Dr. Salazari are speed walking down the hallway. And Dr. Nolte is actually ahead of him with some papers in his hand. And he is angry walking, and you hear it. And he starts coming towards the room, and he heads into the room. And he says, we're leaving. We're leaving right now.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Nolte.
Thank you, Dr. Nolte. Like, it's clear on Matthew's face that, like, he wants to ask why, but that's a question for, like, tomorrow, Matthew, or, like, an hour, Matthew. Like, right now, he's like, we're out. He will look at Clara and that sort of, like, doesn't want to say it, but, like, he needs, like, just a little shoulder. If you could just... He needs to get out of the bed, and he hasn't taken any pain medication.
Oh, David comes over.
Oh my God, yes, thank God, David.
David comes over.
So yeah, he'll look at
And yeah, okay, thank God for David. We sent for David. David is awesome. But also, David just stole your spot, Clara.
It's true. Like instinctually, like Matthew would have looked at Clara, even though they were in the room. That's
That's okay.
Sure, it's fine.
Sure.
We'll deal with that later.
What is he doing? That's the Clara would have squeezed Matthew's hand and let go because she probably couldn't carry him out, and maybe David can.
Matthew's more just needing someone to like stabilize him as he gets out of the bed, because otherwise he will fall over. Like it's that moment of being able to get out of a bed that's usually the most difficult when you're really injured.
Good news is David's carried wounded people before.
And that is the one reason that Clara doesn't try to push in.
Yeah, this is not his first torso trauma rodeo.
Yeah, so she's gonna let that happen.
The bad news is that David's experience with human transport is the kind where you get them off the fucking fields of murder. Yeah. And so their mood or comfort is not part of his calculus. And so he doesn't snatch up Matthew, but the hand, the helping hand and the way he supports you is firm and objective based.
Matthew is like, it is the 1950s and I will not scream. It is the 1950s and I will not scream. So he's just kind of like grits teeth. Okay, I'm fine. This is all fine.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah, we'll follow. Does anyone try to stop us?
Well, not with physical violence, but Dr. Salazari is definitely kind of calling out. He is saying things, but the things that he is saying are things that aren't going to work. Because it's things like, I won't, me or this hospital will not be held responsible for the safety of this man after he leaves, and that kind of it is stuff that if things were normal, it would work, or it would be a good argument. Yeah. It's like, he shouldn't be moved. He shouldn't be moved. At least let us call an ambulance. Please get back in the bed. It's like the best lies and the best abuses, they are lacquered in pure truth. Matthew should be back in that bed, or at least a bed. Matthew should be laying down. If Matthew needs to be transported, it should be in an ambulance. I mean, Matthew's recovery is going to be set back a little bit by the next 20 minutes of his fucking life. And and he's like, I can't be held responsible. We won't, if you try to sue us for him getting hurt. And it's all of those things that a doctor would say.
As he's going on and they're pulling Matthew out into the hallway, Clara turns on Dr. Salazari and just goes, if you want to have that conversation or that dinner or get your money for your hospital, you will cease now and let him out of here. I'm fully willing to talk to you about all of this, but you stop. We have made our decision. As somebody who knows things and understands my brother's worth and understands yours, you will let us leave and I will respect your position.
If you valued your brother the way I value your brother, you would put him back in that bed right now. Your actions prove the lie of your words.
Then we have many lives to talk about later.
Where is the orderly?
The orderly is at the door. He is like standing next to the door. He is not moving. He is looking at Dr. Salazari, and Dr. Salazari has given him kind of a placating gesture, because if Matthew was by himself, if Matthew tried to leave by himself, that orderly would put him right back in that bed, and there would suddenly be chains.
There's very much this vibe that like Matthew is getting there, which is why Matthew is unable to not do a flex. And he just looks at the orderly and says, if the doctor is worried about my health, why don't you get me a wheelchair so I can get out more safely?
The orderly fucking snorts at you, Matthew.
I'm gonna try divine.
Yeah, fuck it. Perfect. Go for it.
Fuck that guy. I have no idea if he's even a monstrous creature. If he's not, then I'm fucked. Like, it doesn't work. So, like, he's like, no, you did not listen. Like, the doctor isn't listening to Clara, so like, fuck this place. How dare they?
Like, I don't care if he's mortal. It'll stop the chain sounds. Kill him.
Yeah, no shit, right?
And he gives 0 fucks.
That is an 8 and a 9 minus 1 plus soul, so plus 2. So that is 19 minus 1, 18.
The creature mistakes you for a god. I
don't actually know if it's actually a monstrous creature, so if it doesn't, like, that, it also can just, like, not work. I don't know.
So, refresh me on what exactly this action, have you described?
Yeah, he specifically, like, he turned, like, as he's being helped out, and, like, the doctor's being, like, you know, using all these excuses of, like, this will set him back and things like that, and says, the doctor seems to be worried about my health. Meet us with a wheelchair so that I can leave more with safety.
Yep.
And he's like, meet us with a fucking wheelchair.
Yeah, it says, how about you go get us a wheelchair? He snorts, and then Matthew fucking Kwisatz fucking weirding ways him. And says, you know, go get me a wheelchair. And the posture that this big, like, beef-eating linebacker dude assumes is, in its own way, extremely uncomfortable. His shoulders are turned way forward and his head is down, and he's, like, speed shuffling. It's like his body is trying to take a different shape. And Dr. Salazari is also staring at you, Matthew, in this kind of like,
yeah,
like,
Yeah.
But you can't tell if he's, I'm fucking up by not trying to kill the sisters and put Matthew back in the bed, or I fucked up because I am messing with things beyond my comprehension. Like, you can't, like, clearly he thinks that he has made a terrible miscalculation, but you can't figure out whether he feels he inadequately valued Matthew or something else. Like, it's
hard because my inner Matthew is like, his mistake was inadequately valuing Clara. You don't say no to my sister.
You're gonna fuck my sister and you're gonna like it.
It's okay. Bethany's just obscenely pleased about the, like, body language of the orderly, because, man, does she not like that dude?
Yeah, I mean it.
Does he get me a wheelchair?
He does.
Yes.
Win.
He does, and it. You know, there is a moment, and I forget the verse exactly, but it is there's a Bible verse where some angels show up and they manifest themselves, and all the people that they're talking to just fall on their face out of be not afraid. And there's a lot of be not afraid in that moment. And Bethany, there are very few times that what you feel is a sense of touch. Usually it's audio visual. And so the sense of a pair of wings bludgeoning the walls is that, and one of them like slaps you in the face almost, like the pin feathers actually hit you. It is an experience. and one that is kind of outside of the standard hallucinogenic schizophrenic experience. But the wheelchair is brought, and Matthew is placed very carefully into it, and Dr. Nolte is fussing and grumping, and you are put into the car and you are driving away to another hospital. Guys, here's the thing. About 60 seconds of driving after you leave the hospital, you can't remember how to get back.
No. Oh, shit.
Do we have a card or anything for Dr. Salazari?
Yeah.
You know the name of the hospital, too.
Yeah. How is it? Saint Dymphna. Yeah.
Yep.
That's one for the encyclopedia, because you can't Google it in 57.
Mm-hmm.
The Google Encyclopedia Google Tanica.
The concierge.
The concierge.
Yeah,
so
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
Concierge.
So you guys make it to another hospital. This one's fine. Dr. Nolte is his usual brusque, bordering on hyper-aggressive self. He does something that he doesn't normally do, and that indicates strongly how much he's worried about Matthew. He does not discuss money with the Van Horsts. He has never discussed money with the Van Horsts, or at least he has never discussed it in front of the siblings. Maybe he talked dollars and cents with Papa Mal, but his experience with you guys has essentially been, I'm going to do what I think is best, and then you're going to get a bill.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't, but he also never tries to leverage your wealth.
Yeah.
He charges for things. He's very upfront. He says, this is an expensive surgery, or this is going to take a lot of time, or I'm going to have to do this. The costs are discussed. I mean, maybe not down to the dollar, but when there are large costs, they are brought up. But he never leans on you for money, and you've never really heard him name drop you. He name drops you in this hospital. He actually, you guys pull in, and he walks in, and 30 seconds later, a pair of a nurse and a completely normal human-shaped, human-flavored orderly with a wheelchair comes out, and they begin the process of transferring Matthew into a wheelchair. And when you guys walk in, he is actually talking to what looks like a doctor of significant power and authority in the hospital, based off the quality of the clothes underneath the doctor's jacket and the haircut It just there are many ways that power, prestige, and authority manifest, and this doctor is manifesting many of the physical signs of power and authority, and wealth. And Dr. Nolte is like pointing and doing the like, you need to listen to me, you need to understand who's coming into your hospital right now. That, and he's doing that, and you've seen it, and you've seen other people do it, but you've never seen Dr. Nolte do it. So it's a little weird, but it's also kind of cool. And the only thing that this doctor says is, don't worry, this is Las Vegas. We've handled high-profile people before. They'll be taken care of.
I just love that this is Las Vegas.
You know, and he said something about setting Frank Sinatra's thumb. It was
Delightful.
Yeah. So, Matthew is wheeled in to a not crazy Oracle Mushroom Hospital, where he is going to have a couple of perfectly normal human days of recovery, like a perfectly normal human.
Good.
Cool.
Teamwork makes the dream.
Yep. And so, what we're going to do is that, so next game is going to pick up with a few days having passed, enough for Matthew's critical care time to have passed. Realistically, probably there would be 2 weeks of convalescence, but
Role play time.
Role play time. Yeah. It's the time to get back up and moving.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, victory. We have escaped from the hospital at Delphi.
Yay.
So how do we feel about all that?
Yeah.
Do we feel like we accomplished something?
I think we did, because not only did we get Matthew to a safer place, we also got as much as we can't remember how to get back, we now know more about this hospital and this sort of world, and we have inroads that were made by Clara to learn more and see what we can use from them in the future, even if we may have ended on a sour note with them, but that doesn't say that we can't build on the foundations that were already laid.
That is true.
You could try to get that dinner, call him, meet on neutral ground. Don't know if it'll work, but
yeah. It is also important to remember that it seems that their interest in Matthew specifically is an interest of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is something to consider, that in their ideal state that they would have Matthew in a bed.
Nobody is chained to a bed, so that's a win in Bethany's book.
Yeah, that's a hell of a win.
Real big win.
So there was a lot of information. Do we feel like we learned anything new? Do you think our characters discovered anything new about the truth? The big twoof.
Yeah, absolutely. That there are entities out there practicing for other worlds or other dimensions that are completely separate from the two that we know.
There are other worlds than these.
Yeah. That's fairly major. And at least for Clara, she didn't get a sense of it being evil. It wasn't as dark as Inferno. It wasn't as corrupted or fallen as Metropolis. What she saw, she was kind of intrigued by, if it wasn't about the control that they were taking over their patients.
If it wasn't awful, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's so funny because it's Bethany's most nightmare place. The other ones are totally fine and manageable. And this one, she's like, nope. How much can I nope out of this because it just wants to eat me?
Yeah.
To put me into this one place, which I have tried really hard to understand about myself and fight against forever. It wants to keep me there and consume that and me for all of time.
Yes. Bethany wants to get on. Go.
Oh, no, you go.
Bethany wants to get on the nope train, the fuck that, Stan.
Uh-huh.
I'd say that Matthew lies in between Bethany and Clara's views because
Shock.
for him, I know, right? But like his sort of situation is where he's like, well, I remember the last time that we found a place and we went there and they wanted to control us. And then we went back later on and they super failed at that now, didn't they? And he kind of sees it as a similar thing. He's like, look, I understand and I don't blame them for wanting to control us because control and power are hand in hand. Sadly for them, it's going to be a flip because that's how we roll. And like, that's legit, like how he sees it. He's like, I'm happy to work with them when we are the ones in power. And it's like, Matthew, why? Why are you like this?
I love that confidence though, Matthew, because normally Matthew's on, like, Bethany's usually on the same backing, like, no, we got this murder train that the siblings go on. But not this time. She's definitely in the, like, no, this will eat me forever.
I feel like isn't that part of like the Greek mythology too? Like, hasn't there been more than one circumstance where mortal authority tries to control an oracle?
Oh, yeah.
Or control the circumstances of prophecy, and then it bites their ass right off.
Okay, you want to know a really cool thing, honestly, about Greek as the language in ancient Greek and prophecy?
Totes.
There's a specific case for prophecy, and it is reflexive in a yes-no, which means it means both outcomes.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it's, you do this thing, and either it goes absolutely perfect or it goes absolutely wrong, but that's the way that it works, which is super neat.
So it's part of the syntax?
It's part of the syntax that they can't necessarily be wrong because it's either a perfect yes or a perfect no. It is a reflexive both in the Greek, in the ancient Greek, according to my friend who is a classicist.
That sounds it sounds like a redneck conjugation, like willant.
Basically, but it is that that there is a specific conjugation for ancient Greek prophesying, like specifically Delphi prophesying in like the plays and the myths and whatever that is basically that is a yes and no at the same time.
Oh man, that's so cool.
That's really, really cool.
It's super fucking neat.
So do you guys feel like it's okay, as always, like, you know, no answer is wrong. Do you feel challenged tonight, or did we just have a good bit of horror, catharsis, and victory?
There was challenge. I mean, Bethany felt very challenged.
Yeah.
Because Bethany's in her nemesis space, and this is specifically extra nemesis space, so
yeah,
that hospital is difficult for her.
I think Matthew's done feeling at 75%, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would say that the main challenge was balancing Matthew's overwhelmingly too much confidence with like Matthew's actual reality, and making sure that I played out both of those. Like, I didn't ever want to make it be like Matthew was actually as competent or as healthy as he thinks he is. Baby, no. But I also wanted to make it clear that like he did think like he is consistently too big for his britches. And balancing showing that he doesn't actually measure up to what he personally has as his self-image is sometimes difficult. And I think that I managed to do it pretty well this time. But like, that's always a thing that like was especially hard in a situation like this.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to live up to the divine mandate you write yourself.
And
so
that's divine and orderly, but sure.
So Clara spent this entire game sober, which is pretty fucking rare. And she was generally successful at her goals.
Yep.
Do you think that this might lead Clara to make different decisions, or do you think this is just going to be an anomaly? Or are we going to see how it goes next time?
We'll have to see how it goes next time, because if her siblings are in danger, which they are, and they probably consistently will be, she's going to try to keep it together as much as she can. So she will continue trying to function this way. She hates it, and it's miserable, and it grates on her skin to be the responsible, put together strong one. But she feels like she needs to do it, and she loves them so much, so she will.
So is it what about now? What about these circumstances that have compelled her to be sober when in other instances of significant trauma, both mundane and supernatural, the first thing Clara wanted was a hit?
I don't want to say the dice, so that's where it came from. I think it was needing to be the one sober and completely sane-headed one in the room. Matthew's drugged and continuing to be drugged. Bethany is clearly having an awful, awful episode. And as much as Clara wants it, she's like, one of us has to be able to see clearly and think clearly and make sober-headed, very clear, right-minded decisions. So I guess that's me.
For now.
For now.
We'll see what kind of relapses we have when Matthew's back on his feet.
I was gonna say, I'm actually really curious as to like if Bethany has a very, very good day, or once Matthew is like back on his feet, whether or not Clara's gonna just use that as a reason to go right down a hole and be really self-destructive in the ways that like can happen. And I think that no matter what happens with it, whether she does or doesn't, is a really cool story.
Yeah.
But like, I'm really excited to see what you choose to do and like what happens, because I think any of these could be a really cool story.
Yes.
Super interested in that idea.
I put the fires out. You made them worse. Worse or better?
Better.
So thanks a lot, guys. And we will see you in 2 weeks.